Very eventful day in crypto yesterday. Had some crazy price action, specifically on Solana. So we definitely are going to dive really deep into, just discussing all things crypto related. The other big thing was that Twitter actually rolled out a program that they've been talking about for months at this point for creators to get paid in a similar way to other social media platforms like YouTube. And so we saw a couple of examples in the NFT space. We saw a bunch of examples from notable people outside the NFT space. Looks like Mr. Beast, obviously the biggest YouTuber in the world, his check was for $25K. Jason Calacanis, one of the hosts of the All In podcast, Nick's smiling because I'm mispronouncing his name.
You call it Canis.
Calacanis?
Yeah, Calacanis.
Jason Calacanis of the All In.
He got a big canis.
It was like 10 grand for Jason Calacanis, and Whale.swoosh from the NFT space. I believe it was about $2,000 for him. So I guess this is from February until now is the assumption. I don't think that's been confirmed. That's about 5 months. Still not bad. Definitely not bad. The requirement for this is 5 million impressions per month for the last 3 months. And I feel like there's a lot of people in the NFT space that have impression numbers that are that high. I know it feels like it's a lot, but when people really are able to kind of, crack the Twitter algorithm, so to speak, 5 million impressions is relatively easy to come by. I just know a few people that get that every single month in and month out. Nick, what do you think of this monetization program that Elon Musk rolled out?
How easy to come by is it, Pio?
I've broken it 2 times.
Okay. Well, I feel like it's not that simple, but
it's not easy. I mean, look, it's not easy, but I do know people that get 20 million a month every month.
I know Mr. Beast. That guy has hundreds of millions of YouTube subscribers, but I don't think that's easy. In terms of, I mean, dude, my only thought is, where's my money?
Well, you didn't qualify. You're not in the program.
Well, I don't know. I feel like that I still deserve it.
Tristan said those automatic GMs aren't cutting it.
Okay, fair point.
You can't automatic GM and just get a paycheck, Nick.
How much did you get for how many? Didn't you get like 4 million impressions on that hoodie picture?
That is true. Yeah. So like that hoodie should have been worth easily thousands of dollars.
I think that would have. I think literally that tweet was probably like a $200 or $300 tweet in this new program.
Have some respect, dude. I feel like that tweet was worth like $40,000.
Well, the market is saying it's worth $200 or $300. The market being defined by Elon Musk.
Okay, but I'm just saying what I think it was worth, and I think it was worth like 40 grand.
Well, I mean, we'll have to see what the market prices it at. Easy, what do you think of this monetization program?
It's interesting, to say the least. You've seen a lot of people actually post about how they're earning more from this than most other platforms. I didn't consider the fact that it may be a 5-month backlog of the actual pay on it as well, which is really interesting. You needed the 5 mil over 3 months. So I don't know if they've been accounting for 3 months. I don't know if it's been the 5-month backlog. It's going to be really interesting to see how people try to game the system. Like, is there a way to anti-bot it? You also saw Elon come out and say, if you steal people's posts, you'll be demonetized. So like, he's very conscious of it. I will say the other thing that caught me off guard is you need to set up the subscriptions model on your page to be considered for it. And I just realized I've had an outstanding application for that for like 6 months. Just Twitter support is terrible. I guess that's what happens when you fire 97% of your staff. But hey, to each their own. I'm not CEO of 15 companies, so I don't know shit about shit, I guess.
What content were you going to be posting that people would have to subscribe for, Easy?
Dog pictures and basketball highlights from 2006. So like, just really play into the nostalgia.
But seriously though, what did you want to have subscribers consume?
Nothing. I had the subscription pay set to $0. It was purely just to try to get into the monetization program because I'm just interested in it. Like, I was just very curious how and what it would look like and what would roll out. So I had like a plot, and maybe that's why it's taken 6 months, because technically they would have earned no money off me because I put it at $0. And to be honest, like, I wasn't even going to post anything to that, because you look at someone. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I subscribed to Mr. Beast yesterday, and he actually posted some pretty good stuff, like behind the scenes on his YouTube videos and what does well versus not, and that stuff is pretty useful. I could see how a subscription model would be valuable for a lot of followers.
And I just got a message to the Twitter account Ashley St. Clair had been posting a lot about this. And they had just said that it's based like, what are your reply numbers like? Because those are a better metric, as payouts are for ads and replies rather than general impressions. So I think, and that's one of the things we've actually seen in the new Twitter algo is a heavy push towards the amount of replies you get actually pushes your tweet out more than retweets right now. So you get more impressions based on reply numbers. It's just interesting to see this like net new spin on it. And you even saw Elon tweet and respond to Mr. Beast saying that they wanted to compete with YouTube payouts, which we all know are not great by any means, like at all. Like I think 1,000 views is like anywhere from $8 to $12 if you do finance content.
If you do game, 1,000 views has got to be less than that. Less money.
Well, that's a CPM rate. It's the whatever that is like 8 to 12, I think, for finance videos. Gaming videos are like $3.
In a bull market, it's $8 to $12. I think in you're not getting that from Google most of the time. But yeah, if you're getting $8 to $12 on Twitter replies, then
that's crazy. Yeah,
that would be insane.
Did you see what Mr. Beast got for his "This train is barreling into a giant pit" video? He said he spent $30 million on it for that video. Ad revenue so far, he's made $165K. So
that makes sense.
But normally he makes more than his cost. Like that's his whole like thing. Granted, he has 700 videos. Me and Nick were talking about that. This train is barreling into a giant pit video. Dude, I ended up watching his gaming videos after that because my YouTube algo just like started showing me them. He does like, I've never realized how many channels he has, and all of them pull millions of views. And like, you got to think the cost for a Roblox video is however much money he gives away versus paying for a house that he puts 100,000 fireworks in and literally catches on fire.
Oh, I mean, they're printing on a lot of those channels because it's way easier for the production. They're literally just sitting at a camera. And it's those other things are building the Mr. Beast brand. Mm-hmm. Mr. Beast can just go on a video and it just gets views. If you make a video about Mr. Beast, it just gets views. That's why all we're going to be discussing on this show moving forward is Mr. Beast. Yes. But the thing I was going to say, I think that the Google ad sponsorship is completely different than Google ad sponsorship is different than like his sponsors that are paying for placement on that video, which I think is what's ultimately covering the cost. Because I saw a clip where he showed his YouTube revenue, and his YouTube revenue was like, a couple million or something like that, or like hundreds of thousands, which for the average person is a lot. But if you're spending $1 million per video plus, then it's not enough. So I think all the revenue is coming from those brand deals pretty much.
Well, I know he's not supporting it off of just YouTube views. I mean, I look at our YouTube revenue on 6.5 million views in the past 28 days.
That's also based on shorts. So that's a different monetization than like mid-roll ads on a 15-minute view, which gets 100 million views. But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they were like trying to hype up shorts going into January of this year as if it was going to be a revenue generator. 6.5 million views makes you sub $1,000. I'm just pointing it out. It's not like major money, and it's by no means easy to go and get 6.5 million views. It's not like a, super simple thing to go and do. However, I do think regardless, just the carrot of any kind of monetization on Twitter is something that they should have long had. I mean, the reality is before Elon bought Twitter really wasn't getting paid attention to. It just wasn't. When you kind of think about what no, I mean like by the people running Twitter. Like Jack Dorsey was not shipping new updates all the time. There has been way more new stuff on Twitter, and it just feels like it felt rudderless before Elon came, and now at least it's trending towards something. A lot of people complain, but the reality is it's not going to break. And now just this monetization thing, why didn't they do this before, right? So there were already people in our space, specifically in the crypto space, that have had a really big interest in doing or in participating on Twitter and having their Twitter numbers be up. People just want to do it. And so now if you're going to actually have a financial incentive attached to it, I think it's going to attract creators. The other thing is that if the compensation is competitive with YouTube, I think a lot of people will probably come from Instagram, because is there even a monetization path on Instagram that's actually through Instagram? I understand Instagram people have brand deals, but is there any sort of Instagram specific monetization path?
There's no ad revenue on any of that stuff.
There's
Facebook.
e-commerce.
Yeah, it's all e-commerce, like multi-level marketing, all that other stuff. But there's nothing. What, Nick?
All the money is coming from brand deals, basically. Is the way that
the app doesn't pay you.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
So I have to say, I'm getting PTSD basically from, like, I think Instagram is OpenSea and Twitter is now Blur. So we're seeing Elon Musk basically copy Pac-Man Blur's strategy, and basically they airdropped a bunch of money to people with basically the next money airdrop. There's no clear timeline on it. We're going to see a bunch of people engagement farming from now on to try to hit that 5 million mark. And I don't think the payout's going to be as much. I think the quality of content's going to go down. There's going to be a bunch more people using the platform to try to get that money. But I think the payout's going to be smaller per.
Would that make Threads look rare? Looks rare?
I think so. I like where your head's at.
I'm thinking I'm on one today. We're here. Soul's almost $30. We feel great today.
I actually think that that the Twitter's thing is going to actually attract quality creators to the platform that weren't giving the platform any love at all before, because there's an actual monetization path now. And I've long said, I don't understand like what quote unquote engagement farming is. Like, I don't really know what that means. And I feel like they'll just make adjustments to the Twitter algorithm that only rewards quality content. Like that is something that they can do. If you mean like posting like a hot take that like Marco Roby is mid, which was yesterday's narrative, if you're saying that is quote unquote engagement farming, that's just a hot take that gets a lot of play. Mr. B said, whoever has the most liked reply to this in 48 hours gets all of my Twitter revenue for the next month. That's actually not that much money for Mr. Beast. He's used to dishing out hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think his monthly Twitter revenue is probably less than $10,000 based on the number that he shared, because that was for 5 months. That tweet right there has 23.3 million views. Good luck competing with Mr. Beast on that. Like, good luck. But I mean, just seeing Mr. Beast participate more on Twitter is a huge green flag for this whole thing. And TikTok, for example, as a platform, there's pretty much there's no monetization on TikTok, and the audience on TikTok, even if you have 5 million followers, 10 million followers on TikTok, the monetization, like the conversion that you can get for monetization from your audience on TikTok is just so small.
Well, they just rolled out monetization for live streams on TikTok. So you've seen that one individual go viral on crypto Twitter this past week, in which he makes sound effects. Like, dude, the video's absurd, but it's been all over the place now. And
this,
not that one. No. There's another one where the woman, it's a French woman who's popping popcorn with a hair dryer and making like sound effects the whole time. I don't know why. I can't stop watching them every time they hit my timeline. I'm fascinated. But like, someone did the math based on those like emotes and other things hitting the screen. You're getting about $600 an hour, like everything that's going on. And yeah, there's people saying that they're role playing as a non-player character from video games who just like makes sound effects and like is just there. I guess it's a trend on TikTok right now. Being an NPC, as they call it. Dude, we're in a weird time.
Well, all that is basically is like Twitch model of tipping during a live stream, only instead of playing video games, you're just kind of doing things that are a little bit kinky, it seems. Look, we got a lot to talk about today. We have to talk about the XRP ruling that it's not a security. We have to talk about the subsequent pump on Solana and, quite frankly, all things crypto. We'll talk about APEFEST being hosted in Hong Kong also. So we got a whole bunch of stuff to sink our teeth into. Before we get into it, just want to take a quick moment to thank the sponsor of today's show, Iconic Moments. We had the team from Iconic Moments on the show yesterday. They are introducing the Beyond the Edge Jackson Pollock Studio Collection NFT drop. It's a limited edition print and digital art series that celebrates the life and technique of Jackson Pollock, the Jackson Pollock, ladies and gentlemen. They worked with the Jackson Pollock Studio to just have an attempt of offering a unique glimpse into the edges of Pollock's masterpieces. So each piece actually captures the energy, the color palette, and the iconic drip technique that defined Pollock's work. So if you're an art collector, obviously you don't want to miss this one. The prints are going to be stamped and hand numbered by the official Jackson Pollock Studio. Look, at the end of the day, I've been really excited about this all week. I've talked about it. The only way that you can get access to it is if you have the Iconic Moments Art Pass. They have VIP access to the collection. If you're a holder of the Can You Dig It collection, that's the secondary collection that will get access. And there are also other select communities. We're actually going to be giving away one of these on the show next week, so you don't want to miss that. Check out Iconic Moments. Clemente has it pinned to the top of the Twitter space. Getting into the weather report, Kicks and Signal are not here. Nick, would you want to give it a shot to read the weather report? I know the audience has enjoyed your previous weather reports.
I think I'm the premier weather reporter on this team here. I'm just going to be honest. So the answer is yes. Although I don't have the music, so that actually already disqualifies me. The weather report, Friday, July 14th, total market volume, 21 million, Blur 13.8, OpenSea 3.5. Damn, that's pretty low. I don't know if that's like relatively, if that's bad or good. Apes 33.7, Mutant 6.3, Punks 50.4, D-Gods 8.9, Azuki 6.2, Captains 5.9, Pudgies 3.6. These are numbers. Over the past 24 hours, Bored Ape Yacht Club announced two in real life, IRL as the kids call it, events. The first in Miami celebrated 2 years of Mutant Ape Yacht Club, and the second event, APEFEST, will be in Hong Kong in November. I didn't see the thing about Miami. That's exciting. Doodles introduced the Incubator, a launch pad that enables Doodles holders to globally expand the brand. From events to commercial experiments, OG holders will be funded for their ideas. The first contract is live, looking for creators to become the Doodles artist in residence. I was thinking the same thing for Bodaggos, actually. With crypto pumping, yesterday's notable NFT sales included a golden Azuki, which sold for 282,000, and a golden Bored Ape, which sold for 600 ETH or 1.1 million. People are buying NFTs apparently, despite the fact that that crypto is surging. Lastly, Twitter introduced monetization by sharing a portion of ad revenue with qualified content creators. We discussed that this morning. Look, no one's making money out of it. They paid $5 million. Like, big whoop for the first half of the year. That's like basically like our company's entire budget for the year is close to what Twitter paid for the whole first half of the year. This is jack shit. But writer Brian Krasenstein claims that Twitter paid him $24K. That guy is just full of shit, but I always love when he comes on the show.
There was one person who made $106K. That was the highest yesterday.
So basically 10 people made money
yesterday,
and this is like a major news story. BTC 31.1K, ETH 1990. Great year. Sol, dude, Pio, your cursor is going crazy in this document. Like you are on every single line, clicking all over the place. Sold 27.6, Ape 2.2. Did Ape pump? That's the question that I have associated with that one. Is that good or bad? 2.2. I don't know. Maybe slightly up, like 10%, I think is what we're looking at for Ape.
Up 17% on the day.
Well, that's pretty good. I saw Ape pull back heavy. All the articles were fudding the hell out of ApeCoin. And I was like, maybe I should buy a little bit just to see what happens here. But it's not up that high. It's not doing so hot.
15% over 7 days.
Yeah, but
down 1% over in a month.
Yeah, the past month is not very pretty. So it's still in struggleville, but it looks like the as Kix likes to say, it looks like those Bollinger Bands are curling, is the word that he likes to use. And so we may have bottomed. Maybe you buy a little bit of this, pump it up to 3. You know, that's a nice little play here. Buy this, pump it to 3, another 50% gainer. You heard it here first. What's going on in the newsletter?
Oh, a fantastic weather report as usual, Nick. Nice way to close it out.
It's not.
Hell yeah,
usual.
brother.
I haven't delivered one in a while. I prefer that it would be a little more often, honestly. Like we could just slim down the team here and I'll just cover the whole show, you know?
It wouldn't hit the same. Wouldn't hit the same. I'm sorry. You need some background music. You need a little pizzazz. Maybe a cup of decaf before your morning's doing it. It didn't have it. I'm sorry. It didn't have it.
I didn't sleep as well last night because I was pushing out bugs onto the server. So that's what your boy was doing. Nice
and it's because we drank a cocktail at dinner last night, and that also made me sleep not so well. Bunny has his hand raised. Bunny, what's going on?
So the gold ape sale, right? Is 600 ETH. There was one listed for 500. The guy that sold was like JF, the notorious scammer from Instagram, the @NFT account.
Yep.
He lost more money than he sold it for. He lost 1.2 million on the sale.
Meaning he paid, like, as in he took a loss with the sale.
Yeah, his USD loss on that play was 1.2 mil.
That's not that surprising to me. The rumor on the street is that guy rugged for tens of millions of dollars over and over again, was basically running a rug factory. So I think he's just cutting his losses a little bit on this.
It was $100,000 to promote your project on his Instagram account.
There you go. So. Look at that. Anyway, some updates from the Nifty Daily Digest, which is the daily newsletter that is published at thenifty.com. You also need to have an account at thenifty.com to claim the free NFTs that we give away almost daily. You're going to want to have an account there to claim today's free NFT. This is the big story. A Southern District of New York judge ruled that Ripple's XRP token is not a security in regards to programmatic sales on digital asset exchanges. Following the news, Coinbase immediately said they would be relisting the cryptocurrency on their exchange. I mean, a huge FU to the SEC immediately from Coinbase. Love to see it. 10KTF released 3 animated shorts, the first being a recap on the storyline leading up to today, the second including details for their upcoming season of Battletown, and the third featuring Wagmi-san in the latest development of the storyline. Third story, Ether will be reducing their royalties from 7.5% to 3% less than 48 hours after having increased their royalties to 7.5%, citing feedback from the community to do so. Last but not least, Alex Mashinsky, the former CEO of Celsius, was arrested. This was breaking news during the show yesterday. Arrested on federal securities fraud charges, and the bankrupt crypto exchange agreed to a $4.7 billion settlement with government regulators, making that one of the largest settlements in the FTC's history. So pretty wild stuff on that front. A lot of things shaking out in the crypto world overall. Anyway, just getting into the meat and potatoes of this stuff, XRP was not labeled a security, and it sent crypto way, way up. Some rapid fire. Solana was up to over $30 at one point, but is settled down at 28. Ethereum, almost $2,000. Bitcoin broke above 31K. What do you guys make of this? I feel like you all have followed XRP much longer than I have. This has also been a real long time coming. Clemente pulled up a clip from last year where Nick said that you were smoking crack if you thought that XRP was going to be a good trade.
Clemente is really enjoying that clip. I'm going to be honest with that one. It's like I call one of his segments, like I make fun of a segment, and this guy spends 7 months just working on making sure that every clip of me is absolute garbage. So the thing I was going to say about that clip, the reason that I hated the trade, and I don't know, what was the price of XRP at that point? Like that's the first thing to answer. And then to get information on. And then the second thing about that was I didn't like the trade because you couldn't go and buy it. That was the biggest issue with that trade. Kix was saying, I like buying XRP here. And the issue was that you couldn't literally buy XRP. I own Ripple. So I actually have a bag of Ripple. It went from
You own the company?
I own the entire company. It went from 30 cents to 70 cents, which means instead of $100, I have $200. But that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is you couldn't go and get access to this, or if you did, you had to use like a VPN, use it like sign up for an international like crypto exchange. There was a whole process that you had to go through in order to buy it. So you couldn't place the trade. And the better trade anyways was just buying Solana this entire time. And it's still, I think at this point continues to be potentially the single best trade. Ape is a nice long shot here. And it's not really a long shot, but I think that Solana still is a great trade. And a couple weeks ago, I was telling Easy, I was like, why shouldn't I put all my money in Solana at 16? And I bought more at 16, but I didn't buy enough. That's the conclusion here.
You also got terrible fills, and I had to listen to you for like a day and a half about the terrible fill you got. And now it looks great. Now you're ecstatic. Now you're like, damn, great fill. Shout out to Gemini for loading up the bag. You know, I love how the sentiment changes, the mood flips. The XRP thing, the one thing I think was the most interesting from that case, and looking through what was announced yesterday, it was a split decision first and foremost, but they did announce that it was not a security, which now has some level of precedent, which I think is going to directly affect the Coinbase and SEC lawsuit. Because in that same settlement, and what was decided on was if you buy and sell tokens on exchanges, those are not securities, because there's no insight into if the organization is getting the buys or sells from that side, which provides some level of clarity, because they're saying that Coinbase was an unregistered brokerage. So I think that was the biggest thing that actually came out of this, because now it looks even more clear, and it's why we saw Coinbase rally so hard yesterday, is that it's shaping up that Coinbase is in a great situation here. And a lot of the tokens that they outlined in that should now actually have some level of precedent to determine they're also not securities. ETH's OTC ICO sales and other tokens ICO and OTC deals, so private sales to early investors, could be deemed securities. So they did state that. The benefit, though, is ETH Foundation has funds on hand to pay any fine that they may see, and that was a lot of people's speculation. The same goes for Solana Foundation if they do get fined for any early OTC deals. But this basically now opens up an avenue for people to drive the token market. Airdrops are allowed, and selling through exchanges are allowed. But selling from the organization to a private investor is not allowed. So
I thought that the issue with selling to private investors was the organization could sell as long as the early holders could also sell, basically, or something.
There couldn't be a lockup, because then it's viewed as an investment contract. It was like the big thing. But basically, like and that was the biggest split decision aspect of what happened yesterday, was the back and forth on that between the judges trying to determine that OTC and private investor style of it. That had the most of the back and forth conversation between the judges. So that was the one thing where there is still a lack of clarity around as to what exactly is going to be allowed for that. But basically, if you don't do OTC to private investors, it looks like you should be in the clear, which is actually like this is arguably one of the most monumental precedents set for crypto that we've seen hard stop. And with XRP being 2 years now and running, this becomes really interesting for future projects and other organizations that don't have a token yet, because it basically sets tonality around how to actually distribute that. Whether it's through airdrops primarily. So I do think we start to see more airdrops from DeFi and chains instead of going the private investor route, which opens up a lot of opportunity. So I'm a huge fan of actually what went down. And yeah, it's a big win. Yesterday was electric, and it all happened right after Mashinsky got arrested. Like, it looked like they tried to quickly roll that out and then drop the XRP news, and everyone forgot about the Celsius situation and was euphoric. And like, as soon as market close happened, Solana just immediately God candled to like 32, which was like the craziest chart to see. I just had it up on a screen, and I was just watching price action while doing some work. And all of a sudden I look and I see $30. I'm like, all right, there's got to be a lag. And I refresh and it's like 31. I was like, what just went down? Like, this is wild.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about how Solana was realistically oversold because of the FTX debacle, because of it, Sam Bankman-Fried's affiliation with Solana. Saw it go as low as $8. Then Vitalik Buterin tweeted about it. That, pumped it up to like $12, but it was still struggling. I think you're seeing the price discovery of Solana, after that black swan event of the FTX debacle last year. I have a question for you guys, though. Humor me. I'm a Bitcoin guy. I'm not a crypto guy. I don't really know anything about Ripple. So like, why does Ripple exist? What is the point of Ripple
Oh, it's
exactly?
going to be a bank or a centralized bank kind of product at the moment. So
Yeah,
even while this
interbank transfers.
Yeah, interbank transfer. So it's more business to business and traditional finance exchanges. So you have like retail consumption coins, which like that's why I'm so bullish on Solana as we continue to see retail adoption and like applications for retail consumers. XRP is far more along the traditional finance banking sector, which a lot of banks globally are actually using. So XRP just recently rolled out an application for an easy to launch CBDC platform. And we've now seen adoption for it by South Korea. Russia's piloting it, Brazil's piloting it, and some provinces in China. And then China most recently is actually the furthest along, with South Korea close second. But China's now using Ripple's program to use CBDCs powered by Ripple for bus transit and cell phones. So like it's very technological layer for CBDCs. And I have been following this fairly close. I dropped a video on it maybe like 2 months ago about this huge move that actually went down with the CBDC pilot and Ripple's adoption rate, which continued my emphasis. I had a tweet in May that was like, the candle on top of the next bull run, what's going to start this like party is going to be Ripple winning the case. And it played out, which was crazy to see. Because I didn't expect it to happen this soon. But we're seeing a lot of this adoption by global entities in other countries for Ripple and the CBDC platform that they rolled out.
One of my the tokens that I enjoyed back in 2017 during the ICO time was actually Stellar. That was another one that went pretty fast.
Stellar Lumens.
Yeah, Ripple was kind of a pain in the ass to transfer. There was an additional code that you had to include when you would make a transfer. There was some like
memo code.
What was it?
It's a memo code. MEMO.
Yeah, and it was like a reference point basically. What they're really trying to do is essentially replace the wiring system. And there's a lot of people that are trying to do this simultaneously. There's the banking system has also released an alternative to ACH. I'm blanking on
FedNow?
No. It's basically a way of sending instant money via the banking system. 1 second. I'm going to look up what it is.
EFT?
Nope. It's a man, I'm blanking on the name of it, but I'll find out what it is. The bottom line is they're really slow to implement, and some of the private markets are trying to implement. The reality is Ripple is going after that infrastructure play at a large scale. They're going to have a really solid business, but it's not clear to me how like Ripple, the underlying token, like benefits from some of this, like from this action, other than like this announcement. Okay, great. It went from 30 cents to 70 cents. If you've been holding this thing for years,
I'd be
like,
pissed.
Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's pretty insignificant. So here's a couple things from me on this action. You see a lot of people calling for the start of the next bull cycle. And the thing that, so first of all, do I want that to happen? Sure, absolutely. That would be super duper cool. But it'd be coming basically a calendar year earlier than anybody expects. Because if you look at previous halving cycles, right, because all of this historically has been directly correlated to the Bitcoin halving. That doesn't mean that it's going to be that way forever, but historically, this has all been directly correlated to the Bitcoin halving. And I have a site here. Maybe I'll share it with Clemente here in the private chat on YouTube so we can pull it up. Here you go, Clemente. I have a site here that's covering the price action at the time of the previous Bitcoin halvings, and then 100 days later, and then a year later. And so even a calendar year after each halving, the 2016 halving, the 2020 halving, we weren't even close to where we needed to be, or close to the top 1 year after the halving. So if you look at the 2020 Bitcoin halving, on the day of the halving, it was a Bitcoin cost $8,740. And that was up from the COVID bottom. So it was already starting to run. 100 days later, it was $11,950. And a full calendar year later, it was $50,000, but that wasn't the all-time high. So if you look at 2016, the price at the start was $663. The price... What
in terms of the numbers? Well, I just don't understand what the like actual like I want to understand in multiples of what you're like explaining, because I don't know what
I mean,
those numbers
basically
mean.
all that I'm pointing out is that even a full calendar year after the previous 2 Bitcoin halving cycles, we were way off of the all-time high. What I was about to say is that 1 year after the 2016 halving, we were at $2,550. The top of that cycle was 20K. It was almost 10x what that 1 year post halving number actually was. So I'm just pointing out that, like, at the end of the day, I feel like this is very premature. It's also not even that much of a rally when you actually think about the history of these assets. Bitcoin running to 31,000, it's just not that significant to me. I hope that we're just on this upward trajectory, but I kind of feel like it could still just be a bear market rally, and we have a pullback, and then that pullback, say it's like to 26K. I think everybody will be up in arms and saying that it's over. And
I'm buying every dip with size right now. There's no point not to. Like, the FTX bottom seems more and more clear that was the bottom of the.
Well, certainly.
Yeah. But even that, like, this entire year, and I've been yelling about it, that like red days, I've increased my DCA exposure, especially more aggressively the last couple months. And I want to even ramp that more in August and September, 1 year pre-election cycle, because next year lines up with like just Bitcoin halving, US election cycle. Right now we're seeing inflation start to trend down month over month, but we are also seeing CPI data trend down. So it's shaping up that from an economy standpoint, we may even be getting deflationary from user spend and the inflation reports, which in turn means that they may have to actually cut rates at some point sooner than expected. So like, you're seeing a lot of the situations right now where housing market's in a standstill, aside from corporate housing and corporate real estate. You're seeing retail housing and like home ownership basically flat because of the 2% and 3% rates that a lot of people are locked in on. And the economy's in a weird spot. So like right now, it seems to me that it's shaping up for like any dip right now, especially on crypto, seems like it's a viable option to continue to kind of increase your size going into the next bull. The bigger thing too is like everyone's talking about like net new user participant in NFTs. You see net new user participation when crypto starts making bigger, like higher highs again, because then people start to look for alternative things that may be lagging. And then people get interested again and like, oh, this industry still exists. I remember it. And that tends to lead to a secondary cycle, which is what we actually saw with crypto this past cycle after 17, 18 and like 16 to 18's run, was people came back like, oh, crypto's still here. I remember this. And then that started the NFT trend. And now I think we're going to continue to see this like trickle down effect, especially with so many more people building things that people can actually interact with at a far easier manner. So like, we're talking like, do we see a bear trap here? I don't think so. I don't think it'd be a bear trap would mean we actually push back to new lows, which I think are just so far out of the conversation. And even right now, when you look at those historic market cycle charts, everyone thinks that we could be in this disbelief rally. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Because to your point exactly, you're like, I think we push back down, which feels like disbelief. Like, what happens if we just slowly start melting up? So many people are going to be caught on the sidelines who haven't been buying. And even me, like, I wish I DCA'd more, especially on days like yesterday when you saw a 36% move on Sol being my highest conviction bet. And now I'm like, okay, what other alts are like lagging here that have viable use cases, and starting to look at the market as like a wider perspective, because interest is certainly cycling back. I mean, Kramer 3 days ago said he wouldn't touch crypto with a pole. So I was like, oh, we're going to cook.
You got a point there. Nick, do you think there's anything to what I was saying about the timing of the Bitcoin halving cycle in relation to where we're at now?
Dude,
it's okay to disagree.
I don't have a position. All I'm hearing is numbers. But the biggest thing is that
did you not process the point I was making? Just basically that it might be early.
He's also
no. I hear that component, and I was discussing that with Easy yesterday. I was like, for me, it feels early for the bull run component here, and there's not really a more macro catalyst in terms of this running. That said, like there was a period in time where GameStop arbitrarily went up because the collective that was buying it wanted to like rally people around it. And I do think that there's some world in which like crypto could theoretically disconnect from the macro, but that hasn't happened yet. So if you're looking at that right now, that said, we saw inflation come down. That's a good thing. If inflation continues to come down, that's a good thing. That said, the economy has continued to heat up. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they still go for one more interest rate hike. Like, it's not out of the question. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, they're going to have to pull it back. the reality is like the money supply hasn't like disappeared. Like so there's nothing that's really like fundamentally changed other than a temporary inflation bump. And so I don't know. I'm curious to see, and then you can have a whole other, I wouldn't even call it a conspiracy, but around how CPI is computed and that it's not an accurate reflection of inflation.
It's not a conspiracy. It's just bad, bad calculation like you talked about.
I don't agree with you. CPI is all that matters. It's an accurate assessment of consumer spending, and I spend more when number goes down.
So the bottom line is, I think that like, I have no idea. I don't know which way it's going. I look for like various lines on a chart to look for general trends is honestly what I wait on. And I have no idea at this point in time. My trade on Solana hit literally the target and blasted past it. And so I actually sold a bunch of our Sol last night because I was like, dude, this is
because it was
like,
a good time to do it. I
saw
saw that
we
he
were texting about it, and we were like, he's like, I think I'm gonna sell some of the royalties here. I was like, yeah, I'd probably do that.
We got home from dinner and I looked at my phone, my email was like, you just sold, X amount of Sol. And I was like, Nick, nice.
Well,
Very
you look
nice.
at it too, and Nick's line and what me and him have been talking about are like the 26, 27 mark on Sol was where we were like, that looks like it's probably going to be a sell zone, especially on a blow up from 15, 14 when the dogs first minted. We were like, yeah, 26, 27 feels good. Blew past that, and now it looks like that's now support. Like we're sitting above that with size on any time it touches that 27 line.
I'm frankly shocked at this because the next leg up from here, it like
36 and 44 are my next two.
Yeah, the 44 range is like is a big number. That's another 2x here, which is pretty crazy. And I don't know. I'm waiting to see whether or not this holds. You got to wait for the weekly candle to close is the thing that I'm looking at. And so depending on where that closes, if we sit above this level that we're at, above 26, basically, that would be an insane situation. And Solana could be in this like mini isolated bull run, essentially.
Well, price discovery, right? Like,
yeah.
It's also just like the lack of the security thing yesterday for XRP literally sets up so nicely for Sol's situation because of the way that the tokens were distributed as well. Like all this stuff about it for me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, that XRP news yesterday was the most euphoric I've felt since I entered crypto. Like hard stop, even back to like 16, 17. And at that moment, I probably should have sold, because I was like, this feels like fucking Christmas, seeing an official precedent set for a token after 2 years to be deemed not a security. I was like, that is so big.
What was the macro catalyst in 2017 during the ICO boom, though? I don't know that there was like anything that was like actually driving that.
It was just the heat of, post-Obama bank bailout 09, just up only for a decade bull
it was
market.
Also the housing situation going on in 16. You had like a pretty decent housing boom that went down there. And then obviously that collapse of everything right then was the housing bubble burst. And then you had corporate housing as well. Similar situation to what we're kind of looking at now. And then the 16 to 20 cycle just wasn't best. No money printing, nothing, which led to a lot of people overexposed in crypto. And the thing was, people had seen Bitcoin rally, which led to a lot of retail participation to basically sprint into crypto, trying to catch the next Bitcoin.
So someone asked about why sell when we're about to go higher. We sold the company money because we have a business to operate.
Operating expenses.
But my personal account, I'm still exposed on my Solana right now, and I'm not selling that. I also think that I generally I'm pretty happy with my crypto exposure. I think I could increase it slightly, but I got a lot. Like I feel like in this space, I've like multiple six figures like of exposure combined with like crypto plus CryptoPunk plus a mutant and a couple and a few other things that I have a ton of exposure. I think if anything, I'm probably too heavily NFTs at the moment.
I was about to say, you have a lot of NFT specific exposure, probably not enough Bitcoin exposure. And I'm not even saying that as a joke. I know, yeah, everyone thinks it's funny. I'm just saying.
I mean, I have like, well, the question is what percentage of your net worth do you want in crypto? And right now I'm looking at like, if we exclude NFTs, I'm looking at like 10% or something like that in crypto, which is to any financial advisor, pretty freaking significant, I would say. And it may be even slightly higher. And so in terms of NFTs plus crypto, I'm looking at like 30% of my net worth is sitting in like NFTs and crypto. And that's just absurd. Like, it's absurd. But I'm just like, okay, well, that's like a high conviction thing. But in hindsight, that could end up being like absolutely ludicrous. I just remember last time in 2017, and I don't know that we experienced, or sorry, 2021. I'm not sure that we experienced something of the same magnitude again. But I surely hope that we do. Like, if you had 100 grand moving into that boom, like, you ended up with millions of dollars basically. And you saw ETH go from $100 to where we're at right now, which is still at $2,000, way off of what that bottom was. That COVID drop was, I think it got ETH down to $100. Literally, if you had bought like,
it was $80. The first time I bought ETH, it was like $120.
Dude, it's so crazy. But yeah, so call it 100. You're getting just a 20x from whatever you had at that point.
on a top 2 token, not even degen stuff.
Yeah, so I think that just from that standpoint, like, we're still in a really like the fact that we've calibrated back up at this level is just as bullish as possible for crypto. I just wonder what that next cycle is like, because anyone that bought crypto, I don't know how much outflow there was during this bear cycle. And that's the money that's going to be forced to come back in as soon as things are pumping. But we have great price action on all of the coins at this moment, other than like Ape and some of the other ones. Which
I have more exposure to the Singaporean dollar at the moment than I do Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, that's
kind of an issue.
Well, it's just odd.
RTP was the alternative to ACH, by the way. So if you look at that, it's real-time payments.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't process that the technology, when you go and use your bank and you set up a transfer or something like that, that's automated clearinghouse technology. That's ACH. And the first ACH technology was developed in the late 1960s, early 1970s. I just bring it up
to wiki that.
Yes. And I just bring it up to make sure that you understand that this technology, that even though there's a user interface with an iPhone app or an Android app, the actual piping behind that technology that's knocking out the transfers that you choose to do through your bank is literally from the 1970s. And it's time for that to be disrupted. And let me tell you, the technology disrupting it ain't going to be Singaporean dollars. It's going to be Bitcoin.
Hey.
I'm just telling you.
Okay, well, Bitcoin, I don't think it's going to be the interbank transfer mechanism necessarily, but
obviously call it blockchain. Maybe it sounds like Ripple is the interbank transfer. I just learned today what the hell Ripple is.
But RTP is literally an implemented solution among 25 banks right now, and we were using it at the last company I was at, and it has a lot of momentum within the payments industry, and they're very excited about that. And that doesn't include any sort of blockchain technology whatsoever. Because blockchain technology is not like superior for transfer speed necessarily. It's more about the transparency and auditability of it, public auditability. And I think that that's something that is very compelling in my opinion, to be able to see, hey, transfers are being made between banks or whatever it is, to be able to have visibility to those things, I personally think is helpful.
Absolutely.
But that's the most compelling aspect of it. That said, it also helps upstarts like Ripple, which is the one facilitating the deal. Someone's like, Nick doesn't know the difference between XRP and Ripple. I'm saying there's got to be someone representing the tokens. Like, Bitcoin doesn't have a core representative who's going around advocating, other than Pio, for Bitcoin. And so the reality is like, a company like Ripple can go have conversations with the banks and say, hey, we've built this technology that's far superior to what you're currently using, and they can go implement it for various portions of the business. But when I look at like actual blockchain stuff, I look at that and say, hey, this can bring transparency, especially to governments. And I think that that's really fascinating, is to be able to have a way of auditing what the government is doing. That's really interesting. And I think it should be a requirement that the government does this stuff so that we can see how the money is being spent. Because like we deserve to see that visibility. Now, the reality is there's like under the table deals that end up happening, and that may be required by like the CIA or something like that, when they're off in Afghanistan paying off the Taliban, because that works really well. And it builds a sustainability.
Yeah, it's very sustainable. It's a sustainable operation that way. One thing on the RTP thing, I don't think RTP is bad. In fact, I think it's long overdue for something to replace ACH, and it doesn't have to be blockchain to replace ACH, because the legacy system's still the legacy system. It is what it is. And yeah, I mean, like, look, it's about damn time is what I'll say about RTP. They should call it friggin' ADT, about damn time. Real quick before we move on, just want to, give one more shout out to our sponsor, Iconic Moments. Iconic Moments. I had the team on the show yesterday. The Jackson Pollock Studio Collection is presenting Beyond the Edge, which is this release that we're talking about. Incredibly exciting official collaboration with the Jackson Pollock Studio. There are going to be 425 physical prints and 425 matching digital NFTs. It's a very, very exclusive release. If you see the prints are beautiful. They're 18-inch by 24-inch on, museum grade, incredible paper. It's just, and they're hand signed, the whole thing. It's just hand numbered, I should say. It's just a really, really cool art drop in the NFT space. That's an official collab with the Jackson Pollock Studio. Jackson Pollock, of course, one of the top selling artists of all time, top 5, I want to say, in terms of sales in the world. It's incredible that they were able to actually pull this off. And I'm just really excited to see how it shakes out, because obviously it's kind of a big thing for the NFT space. And Clemente has it pulled up on the YouTube stream right now. They took extremely high, technology forward photos of the studio floor that Pollock actually painted his drip works on. He would lay a canvas on the ground and do his drip painting right there. And they made individual artworks out of those, the paint drips on the floor that are extremely recognizable. They look like Pollock. So it's really cool stuff. Check out the Iconic Moments Art Pass, because that's the only way that you can actually get access to this. If beyond Art Pass, if the mint goes beyond Art Pass holders, then folks that bought the Can You Dig It collection will get, the next dibs on it. But check it out. Clemente has the tweets pinned to the Twitter show. We're incredibly excited that they're sponsoring us. So just wanted to put that out there. Real quick, APEFEST is going to be in Hong Kong. It was in New York last year. It was in FiDi, over by the pier over there. What do you guys make of the APEFEST move? At first, I thought it was odd. Now I think it makes a lot of sense.
Genius move.
Yeah.
But ape holders are so smoked, figuratively and literally. All the timeline was talking about was, is weed legal there? And we had someone who had been living in Hong Kong talk about it. You just go to jail if you have weed residue after the whole Hong Kong kind of bringing it there. It doesn't look fun from that perspective, but I love that they're doing this, because clearly the East is far more embracing of NFTs. You look at things like Line, a popular messaging app over there, which is now releasing their stickers as NFTs and has done like billions in transactions in the first month alone. So like that entire side of the world is far more open and embracing of crypto, NFTs, digital assets, the internet. The list goes on and on. What I also really like that they said was it won't be as much as a music festival as it's going to be a variety of community hangouts. Yeah. So it looks like they're going to try to do a bunch of side events that they put on and kind of drive. I like it. I'm a big fan of it.
Can the NFT space hang out without weed?
No, dude, hell no. Grow up.
I mean, that whole weed thing is hilarious. That's basically one of the very first things that became a topic of discussion as soon as the location was announced. I think that it makes a lot of sense for Bored Ape Yacht Club as a gaming and collectibles company to have exposure to the Asian markets. And obviously they already did, but doing an event in Hong Kong is super cool for that. I also think it's very smart to get away from the big music festival or big, live club-like concert atmosphere and focus more on hangouts and, kind of social club style vibes. And I've I've honestly been surprised at how much of the NFT event landscape has been focused on like loud music venues. So I definitely like them going on record and saying that they were going to do that. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm interested. I don't fully grasp the current audience of Bored Ape Yacht Club. Like, I don't really understand the demographic of holders right now that are holding, you know, the $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 Bored Ape assets in 2023 attending APEFEST. I don't fully process exactly who that is. I'd be fascinated to go to figure that out. I don't think that we're going to be able to make it. It's right after Breakpoint. So we're going to be in Amsterdam, you know, doing the whole Bodagos thing in Amsterdam with the Solana squad. That's going to be a ton of fun. I'm insanely excited for Nick to fully grasp and see the Solana audience at events with his own eyes. That's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that, but I don't really see us getting on a plane from Breakpoint and going over to Hong Kong for APEFEST. As fun as it would be, and as much as I'd like it to be, and as much as I'd like to just be a 2021 NFT influencer and do that and, you know, frame it as work, I don't really see us doing it. Nick, what do you make of the Hong Kong move for APEFEST? As a former Bored Ape, an OG Bored Ape.
I think you should speak for yourself when you talk about things. So that's the first thing to recognize, because you don't speak for me. Okay.
What did I say that you said?
You said that we're not going to Hong Kong. And I just think that like you should speak for yourself when
maybe I'm going to Hong Kong. If you go to Hong Kong, I'm going to Hong Kong, bro. I'm going to go.
No, it's not, dude. It's we do things like we don't need to go together for all these different things.
So
like,
are you basically saying you got dibs on the trip to Hong Kong right now after Amsterdam? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's first class.
We'll see about that, buddy. But I would definitely chow down on some dumplings. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
I mean, I think you're going to have like at least 2 people hanging out in Hong Kong. So that's pretty exciting. So you got Machi Big Brother is one of them. And then isn't he in Hong Kong?
He's in Taiwan.
Oh, I thought he was in Hong Kong. At some point he was in Hong Kong. Well,
he's a globetrotter. I'm sure he's been many places.
Taiwan, Hong Kong. China likes to call the 2 things the same, you know? And
in China's eyes, they're the same.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, I'm going to tell you right now, you may not be going to Hong Kong now. You're definitely on their list.
That clip's going to get us.
I'm speaking on behalf of China, which is saying that it's all China. Okay.
Oh, okay. You're going right through security. You're good. They won't even pat you down now.
So it's all viewed as China anyways. And in terms of, well, at least Ray Chan, I think, is in Hong Kong. We know that much, right? Yes. And so, okay, so Ray's going to be there.
And I think he's a Bored Ape holder, so he'll be there.
It's the only thing that I wonder about is like, it's going to be pretty intimate. Like Hong Kong isn't close. And so that's the biggest thing. Which I think it's like, it is quite a journey to go there. And when you're doing an international trip like that, like if I'm going to Japan, I'm like planning my Japan trip. I'm not delegating that trip to Yuga Labs to determine what my experience is going to be in Hong Kong. That's like really a big move. And to be obscure about what the thing is right now, you know, a few months before it, to me is like, that is a pretty big thing. I think there's definitely going to be ape holders that are there. And it seemed that I expect that to be a really awesome networking event. But I don't know. I like, it's still, in terms of location, Hong Kong has a lot of crypto activity going on. So I think from that standpoint, it's really fascinating. And I've actually not been to Hong Kong. So like I would consider it just to go see what the experience is there, and eat some food and, you know, go and experience the city.
I just ate some Hong Kong food in the airport in Hong Kong, and it was exceptional. It was very good at the Amex Lounge, and that was just at the airport. I would love to go back. I also think that it's a great move, you know, for the sort of Asian NFT and crypto market. I would love to go just to understand, again, what kind of turnout they get, because we've seen there's a whole subset of the NFT audience that doesn't go to any in real life events, period. it's just not going to happen. So to think that those people that are in the United States are going to go on an 18-hour flight to Hong Kong is questionable. I also do, and maybe this is me like being a little too skeptical, I just don't know how well traveled a lot of people that own Bored Apes actually are. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, obviously there are exceptions, but like, it is going to Asia isn't something that every single American has done, and 18-hour flights are pretty long. But I'm going to be really interested to see how this plays out. I can't wait to either be there or actually just pay attention to what clips are being posted on social media and just talk to people that are there. I saw NFT Statistics. He's in the crowd right now. Friend of the show, great guy of Proof. He I think used to actually live in Hong Kong and has already, declared that he's going to be going. So, you got one, winner from the NFT space heading out to Hong Kong. Anyway, beyond that, beyond APEFEST and the pump, we got this 10KTF update, which I think a lot of people were excited about. More extremely high quality animations from 10KTF. Easy, I know you pay close attention to 10KTF and you're a big fan of their weekly rollouts. What do you make of these rollouts?
Dude, Nick was right.
About what?
Argument here. The G tag price, everything that went down yesterday. I'm so mad about it. So,
what went down yesterday,
dude? So okay, fuck.
I sold the G tag.
It's not good, man. It's not good.
Okay. Reminder, I didn't know I had a G tag. Saw it in my wallet 2 nights ago. Looked at the liquidity. Immediately was like, "Come on now, come on! I got to sell this thing.
Come on, son.
Come on, man." Sold it. By the way, there's a 10% hard-coded royalty on the G tag, by the way, just so you know, plus a 2.5% OpenSea fee, just so you know. And nobody likes ERC 1155s, just so everybody understands where I was coming from.
Just so you know.
Well, I got a lot of people being like, "Ha, BL's gonna hate this when he sees this thing run." It's like, dude, that was a triple threat of things that the NFT market doesn't like. Anyway, what were you gonna say, Easy?
Dude, so there's like 15 more videos coming out. They basically were like, G tags are revealed here. Nothing was revealed. Now there's this whole thing where you have to go to Battletown like way more frequently and you earn popcorn. Ask me what popcorn is. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't give you a definitive answer. It's not a token. It might be points. There's no clarity on it. Dude, I'm so upset about this because I thought we'd finally be like PFP dropping Saturday, like a F it mutants moment. And sure enough, we got 6 more months of comics and videos with no deliverable besides some popcorn that you'll get for some points. There's no guarantee on what they're going to be used for. Maybe you just power up the Battletown person thing. I'm so frustrated about this because I was so confident they would finally give us a little more than just more Battletown, I guess, because that's what they've been doing for last year. And it's had people excited, but it's like it feels like they're just running back the playbook on it, which is tough. And there's no clarity on when G tags will be used or what popcorn is at all. Just that you get popcorn. So I'm just frustrated. I'm frustrated.
So popcorn, real quick. It's going to be a off-chain reward system that then is going to go into an 1155 at the end of the season, which you can then combine with your G tag to power it up or something along those lines.
Well, look, I'm looking at the secondary for G tags right now. What I will say is since this news dropped, the liquidity for G tags is much higher. The price is low, though, compared to where it was at the other day. So selling it north of 0.4 ETH the other day was pretty challenging. Was able to get it done. Now they're selling for closer to 0.3 ETH. And keep in mind, there is that 10% royalty. Keep in mind, it's an ERC 1155. Keep in mind, it's in the 10KTF stock room collection on OpenSea. So a lot going on there. I think that 10KTF will have its major day in the sun, its time in the sun, if Other Side is a very, very popular game. If basically Other Side fully realizes its maximum potential, and then the 10KTF items are high value items in that game, that's where I think you see the maximum potential of 10KTF manifested. Either that or if Beeple actually does a profile picture. However, Beeple's collectors are in his face about his supply, like any other really notable artist. I know someone that is a Beeple collector, and I just offhandedly said to him in a conversation once, I was like, how many pieces are in, how many NFTs does Beeple actually have? And just right off the top of his head, he was like, yeah, it's about 344. I don't remember what the exact number is, but he knew the exact number off the top of his head. When you get into this fine art world, the fine digital art world, the supply is a huge deal. So if he went and did a G-Tag profile picture collection for 10 KTF, that's another 3,736 NFTs in the ecosystem. He did that Gary Vaynerchuk gift goat collab recently. That increased the supply too. I don't know. It's a tough call to think that there's going to be major price appreciation on the 10 KTF stuff before other side is like a fully playable, widely used game. Any other thoughts on 10 KTF before we wrap?
I thought the animation was dope. The
animations are sick. All the art is sick. Always. Nick, anything?
No, I mean, it's your boy's right once again. Just over and over and over. Oh man, it's so hard being so right all the time, dude. Honestly, the NFT space is just tough. I like. There's no. It's difficult, and I think that that's something. Yeah, it's tough. To make money on NFTs, this market has been. It's just been like short-lived pumps over and over and over, and all of the narratives we've been going on, like, don't last more than a couple of days. Whether it's good or it's bad, it cuts both ways. I think when it goes bad, you get these drastic sell-offs. We saw that with the Zuki, and then it returns back to some sort of whatever the new normal is. And conversely, when things are great, it pumps temporarily, and then liquidity disappears shortly thereafter. We're really trading with a small number of people who are all dreaming of the better days back in 2021, and so we're like trained on that, and as though these things should adjust. But the reality is the NFT market has not been able to sustain any sort of long-term pumps other than a few projects. And 10KTF already has a lot of tokens in the ecosystem. And I think that that's the thing that they've dealt with for a long time is you still have clothing items, you still have these other things, and following along was basically impossible because you always have to go log into the Discord. The requirements of being a holder is also incredibly high, and that's why I think it's difficult for a lot of people. I love, like, people were like, "Yo, email's dumb." I can't believe no one actually, we don't get any complaints about that anymore other than people saying like, oh, I can't log in with my Yahoo account. And I'm like, yeah, just go create a Gmail account, problem solved. But like, we don't get a ton of complaints about that. But that was a comment, like, over the past couple of years, which is like, yo, nobody uses email or whatever it is. And it's like, dude, nobody uses wallets. Like that's the reality. And nobody wants to use wallets. It's a pain in the fucking ass, basically. I've been coding this wallet thing. There were some bugs that happened with it. It's just not a pleasant experience, basically. And I think it's going to get much better. I think the friction is going to be reduced. There's competition in that space now, which means that, like, did you see MetaMask rolled out an updated UI?
Well, that's probably in response to, our sponsor Phantom and the traction that they're getting.
Phantom's one of them. I think that there's a bunch of other wallets as well that have rolled out. On the ETH side, you got Rainbow. You got Bitcoin side wallets that are
Xverse.
Yeah, so you have these wallets that are rolling out. There's a lot of innovation happening within that space, and I think that that whenever that becomes much easier, and you have the Venmo-like moment of crypto wallets, essentially, honestly, Coinbase Wallet is the closest thing to that sort of experience for most people. It's just on the front end for the developers, it's really hard in order to integrate with that. And the development experience largely across the vast majority of this space is just garbage. It's a horrible experience to have to go and build.
It's a young space still. Like, it does take time for this stuff to improve.
Yeah, I will say though, the crypto space has been around for a long time. We are seeing the evolution of crypto, but like so it's basically the equivalent of whenever the internet or BBS systems came out, and like I feel like that must have been like 91. We went from 91 to like, when did Gmail come out? That was like 2003, 2005. So it could have even been later, basically.
I think it was when I was like in late high school. Yeah.
So you had basically 15 years is what it took during that time. I would say the early Bitcoin experience, people weren't thinking about it from the standpoint of development experience. Ethereum is, I think, the starting point of the development experience of the crypto industry. So I would look at the timeline essentially
Hear me out.
similarly.
I like
so they
what
were
you're saying.
They were 2014 is when that happened. And I think that's the equivalent of when not even BBS systems came out, but around that time.
Okay. And hear me out on this. What year do you think Microsoft Word came out? Like initial release of Microsoft Word.
I'm saying BBS were popular around 96. So that's where you're seeing from this. Microsoft Word, I would say to 98. Well, like there were multiple systems at that point in time. I think it became the most popular around like 2000 or something.
Sure. But when do you think like the initial first version was available on
I don't know, 98.
83.
What?
1983 was the initial release 39 years ago.
Okay, that wasn't the Windows 95 version of Microsoft Word. So
no, I didn't say the Windows 95 version.
Yeah.
I said, when did Microsoft Word first get released? Windows 95 happened in the 90s, I have to think. 1983. So I had this moment where I found out when Tetris was released, like the game Tetris, because you watched that documentary that you said was so good, Nick, the Tetris one, or was it you that said that? I think so.
Yeah, it was really good. And real quick to interject, that early Word, you know why I didn't know that date? Because the shit was hot garbage at that point in time. And there were so many word processing things. I think that, I don't know if Microsoft acquired Lotus Notes, but Lotus Notes got acquired. And that was basically
1989 for Lotus Notes.
Okay, when it got acquired.
What the hell are Lotus Notes?
It's, well, easy. You're not that much younger than me, buddy, but I remember my mom was writing with Lotus Notes when I was like 9 years old.
And basically what happened was there were a bunch of solutions at that point in time. I don't even think we used Lotus, but they had built you got spreadsheets, you got docs, and all these other different things. But the reality was the visual interface of it. Personal publishing is what that space was called at that time, and it was awesome. You would make a flyer and you'd print it and you'd be like, oh, damn, I made a flyer. That was like game changing, basically, to be able to do that. But that didn't happen until those visual interfaces really showed up. And I think that was like, I mean, we had a printer on our first computer. It was a black IBM PC laptop where the laptop was like literally up to your like waist. And then you had a screen that was like super tiny and a printer on the back of it. The printer was quite impressive. But the bottom line, the stuff that you could print was super basic. But I would say, anyways, conversely, this whole space is kind of like super nascent when it comes to a lot of those different things. You would think, though, that there would at least be some sort of time compression because we have a lot of infrastructure on the internet to accelerate a lot of these different components.
I agree. So a couple things. So Pete Rizzo, who is the editor an editor at Bitcoin Magazine, he came on our Bitcoin show 2 Tuesdays ago, and he pointed out that if the first version of Bitcoin dropped today, it would get laughed out of the crypto ecosystem. Like he was just like, dude, it sucked compared to where it's at now.
Oh,
and
no garbage.
Exactly. And nobody thinks that Bitcoin now is where it's going to be in 10 years. So I agree with you where you're like because we're looking at basically 15 years of crypto, coming up on 15 years of crypto, 2009 release.
I look at the Ethereum date though, because it actually was a development ecosystem at that point. And prior to that, it was just crazy people. Like that's basically what
fair enough.
Yeah.
thought of exclusively as money versus a development platform, I think is what you're referring to. Libertarian ideals deeply ingrained into it. Hardcore psycho-libertarian privacy ideals. Ethereum released in 2015, so still coming up on 10 years of Ethereum. But hear me out on this. You need to attract the top talent to really advance this stuff. And you come from social media, Nick. So did social media attract top developer talent immediately? I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Well, you had the internet is what it was. Web 2.0 is what it was. That was blogging was the social media before Twitter. And then Facebook social networks came out, Friendster, and there was actually a precursor to Friendster. I'm blanking on the name of it. It was popular in Europe, 6 Degrees or something like that, which was about 6 degrees of separation based off the Kevin Bacon concept. But both of those two networks did pretty well. That's kind of what social media was, but you didn't call social media. Social media became a thing when you had MySpace, Friendster, and multiple different things. It started to become described as social media. But yeah, there were tons of developers in the Web 2.0 period. It was kind of, and what really gave rise to Web 2.0 was Ajax. Ajax, which is a form of JavaScript that enables you to make dynamic HTTP requests without the whole page refreshing. And React now does something similar. That was essentially what I would say really drove a lot of Web 2.0. is that you could make web applications versus websites. And that was like, JavaScript was like sort of, you would laugh at the garbage code that would be created with JavaScript early, like late 90s, early 2000s. The code was crap. And you'd use it to do cool things to make like GeoCities style websites that had flashy whiz-bang sort of things. But I remember Dreamweaver and some of these other things that came out that made it easier to create some of these websites that added some of the dynamic elements. But actual JavaScript applications, Gmail was the thing that actually transformed developers' perspective on what could actually be created. And then you have Twitter roll out stuff like that. Facebook ends up inventing React, essentially. You have all these things that come out to make what's the current web application experience. That happened late. Then you have the smartphones come along, which is recent. Yeah. Like it's 2007, basically. No, 2009 is when the real rush started happening. The second iPhone or the third iPhone.
My first iPhone was iPhone 3, and I want to say it was in 2010.
That changed everything because there were smartphones that existed, but the development experience really sucked. And then Apple comes out with iPhone, and we have the whole mobile wave. And you haven't seen a ton of innovation in the web development side since then. Most of that stuff is happening on the React front and JavaScript. We see a lot of evolution of it. But when it comes to Web3, JS, and all this stuff that goes on there, that stuff is just hot garbage. Like, I mean, I've been coding it right now. It's bad across the board. It's an awful developer experience, but it's getting better. An example right now is Web3 modal, and I'm getting real technical real quick. But the bottom line is we're seeing the beginnings of that stuff happening. And I think actually the next 5 years, we see a lot of innovation going on in the web development space as it applies to all this crypto.
Absolutely. And of course it's getting better, even if it's only gradually getting better. Let me ask you this real quick, and then we're going to wrap. And I appreciate you giving us this technical perspective, Nick, on what it's like to actually code and develop in crypto. Do you think that the crypto market or the crypto industry, the crypto space, whatever you want to call it, having assets that have price tags attached to them and then having those assets blow up with blow off tops and bubbles and then 90% drawdowns, do you think that that layer that is not present during the Facebook development era, the social media development era, do you think that layer of complexity that we haven't seen before makes it so that it's harder for developers to go all in on something because they're like, well, maybe that was just bullshit because there was a 90% drawdown? All people talk about is the price. A normal person just says to you, isn't crypto down right now?
So Facebook had the secondary market, and they actually Facebook in particular, their stock gave rise to the secondary stock market in the private markets of employee stock options and all these other things where you could resell them. Facebook was the boom. And that's what exploded that space. Now, the price action was still not the same as crypto, but I actually don't view it from maybe the last time around, yes. Like there wasn't a huge adoption of developers. This time around with NFTs, there were a lot, myself included, a lot of people that were like, oh, this isn't all just bullshit. And this is the beginning of an interesting application of blockchain technology. I can get behind this and I'll go dive into it. Once you have that conviction on the technology side, it doesn't make a big difference. And I don't have on the blockchain, when you talk about blockchain technology, which you love saying, I'm way less interested in the blockchain technology as a whole, but the interface to it basically is where I spend most of my time, which is how an average developer can go and build on top of these things. And that's really where all of the future is associated with this. The breakthrough with the internet was that HTML was accessible. When you make coding accessible for people, then you enable innovation to take place. As long as it's only limited to a small subset of people, then the revolution cannot occur, basically. And that's the big breakthrough. The revolution is not about the core. We weren't sitting and talking about TCP IP protocols. That just wasn't what the majority of the world was talking about. And still today, no one talks about TCP IP protocols, except when you call up your cable company to say, what the fuck is going on with my internet speed? But like that's not what you're actively discussing. And that the same thing, we're not going to talk about blockchain technology. We're going to talk about how can I go and build this thing, or how can I go make an app? And that's what people were discussing during the iPhone phase and still today. Oh, I got this app idea. And that's what people want to talk about. When you make that accessible for people, then you enable the revolution to happen. And then you enable adoption to actually take place, ignoring all the price stuff. I actually think the price stuff is one of the best parts of this entire space, and that it gives you that real-time volatility. The worst part of it is all the commentary that comes from people that are losing money because they're making awful bets on these correlating to your, business announcement essentially. And they're not seeing the returns that they want, and they want to blame somebody else other than themselves.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair take. I'm interested to see how your opinion on developing in crypto continues to develop. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. We went a little bit long today. Thank you for sticking with us. We run the show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10:15 a.m. Eastern time. It's available on YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces while we speak. It's available on Apple and Spotify podcasts if you want to share it as an audio podcast with folks outside of the NFT space, or outside of the Twitter space, I should say. Go ahead, Nick.
One last tangent, one last comment here.
Sure.
Do you know why Facebook blew up? Because they made a developer platform. They made it easy to go and build within that ecosystem. But this is my last comment on this. Steve Ballmer has this clip where he goes on stage and he's jumping around. He's saying, developers, 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 developers. That clip was clipped and everyone says, this guy is fucking nuts. But that's the reality. Why does Apple launch a bunch of stuff at their annual developer conference? If you can attract the people that build within an ecosystem, that is what always accelerates everything. Twitter, developer platform. Facebook, developer platform. Now people get pissed off because Twitter's deprecating their APIs, making it harder to access. And so development is going to decrease as a result of that. And that's actually, if you want to talk about Elon shooting himself in the foot, that's where he's shooting himself in the foot. Is if you don't have an ecosystem of people that can thrive and build in your ecosystem, that can thrive and build in it, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. YouTube gave rise to the creator ecosystem that we have. Those are the builders of that ecosystem. Yep. So if you can monetize and make a living out of it, then that's what enables that ecosystem to thrive. And right now, there's been a lot of people thriving in this space that are basically scam artists, but that's all good. It's going to evolve over time.
And do you think Elon will be able to turn that around, or do you think he's just painfully unaware?
I think he's aware, but his ego's showing on Twitter in particular. There's like an edge that's coming out here that has nothing to do with development, because it's not really like a challenging, like the solutions that need to be built, the product features and things like that. The playbook for building it has already been defined versus reaching Mars. That requires
that's a new playbook.
Yeah, right. That's new stuff that needs to be done. Improving battery technology.
That's new too.
That's something that's like quite difficult. But building another feature on a web app, he doesn't view it, I think, in the same way. And because of that, some of his ego is showing as a result of it. Hopefully he gets checked by this new CEO, but I have no idea. Like, it's time can only tell. And that CEO, by the way, is not a product person. She's an advertising salesperson. And anytime we see someone that doesn't value product, I don't know, that's kind of a flag to throw up. And so I don't know. There's a lot of warning flags on Twitter right now, but we'll end up having to see.
We'll have to see. I have a meeting in 1 minute, so we have to wrap the show now. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back on Monday. Again, make sure you follow the NFT Morning Show Twitter account. It is the host of the Twitter show right now. Oh, Clemente, the free NFT. Go to the nifty.com/claim. Put in the code FLAG17. We're putting our flag in the ground for Solana, for Bodagos. The name of the piece is Tenacity's emblem. Buddy's got the flag. He's got the war paint with the Solana colors on his face. We're not going anywhere. Bodagos is on Solana. We're backing up Solana, and we love the fact that Solana's pumping. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back on Monday. Thank you for listening. We